Hey everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, and you are watching the CD Junkie. This episode of CD Junkie is going to be the first in my series that I'm going to focus on the solo career of Neil Young. I'll be doing these sporadically. This episode, I'm going to focus on the years 1968 to 1979. I could have gone up to 1989, but I thought, oh, you know what? I want to sort of keep these episodes short, so I won't go too deep into his career, but I will show you albums. I'm going to focus not on Buffalo Springfield, not on Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. I'm going to focus on Neil Young and Crazy Horse. What an incredible, incredible career this artist has. I would have to say that Neil Young is probably the most honest classic rock musician out there. What Neil Young was experiencing and thinking, you picked up in the music. You heard it in the music or you felt it in the music. And you still do to this very day. You know what he's thinking about because he tells you in the music. And if that's not honesty, I don't know what is. And it's truly incredible. I was going to say that it almost makes you feel that you know Neil Young. But yeah, there's that mystery that's always there. In fact, I kind of know Neil Young. Actually, I don't know Neil Young. What it is my first job was Jack in a Box, and I worked with this gal. Her name was Rosina, and she was Frank Sampedro's cousin. And Frank Sampedro was a guitar player for Crazy Horse from like the mid-'70s onwards. And I feel that I kind of know Neil Young through that. Actually, I don't. But that is a true story, though. Rosina, at least I think that's her name. I'm pretty sure that's her name. She is Frank Sampedro's cousin. So that's kind of cool. You know, I was flipping burgers and, hey, I know somebody who knows Neil Young's guitar player. So I'm going to tell you real fast how I got into Neil Young. You know, I heard Buffalo Springfield growing up. I heard Crosby, Stills, Nash and Crosby, Stills, Nash Young growing up. And I heard Heart of Gold. Oh, my gosh. That song still just... the chord progression fills me with chills everywhere. I get, goosebumps. It's such an amazing, incredible song. I think we all felt that because that was his first real big solo hit. But I got into Neil Young really in the early 80s because of my brother Mike. Because when I was off listening to Spandau Ballet, Flock of Seagulls, and, Kraftwerk and whoever, he was listening to... Springsteen and Crosby, Stills, Nash, and, of course, Young. So I would start hearing these things through him. And, of course, I was the new wave kid. So, I was like, I bet you he has B.O. And, oh, gosh, he probably, reeks of pot. It's like, yeah, but that's kind of a badge of honor if you really look at it. When you hear things enough, you start going, wow, that's a cool chord change, or that's a nice melody. Eventually, over the course of time, I fell prey to the charms of Neil Young. And by like the mid to late 80s, I was actually buying Neil Young stuff on my own without even hearing my brother play it. But still, really an incredible artist, gifted. And I'm so glad that he's still out there putting out music. We all need artists like Neil Young. And he can rock. Everyone's always saying, oh my God, they don't make good rock and roll anymore. Listen to a fucking Neil Young record. That's great rock and roll. Let's start with Neil Young's solo career. That's where I'm going to focus. As I said, this episode is going to focus on 1968 to 1979. We're going to start with his 1968 debut album. And this was, of course, right after... Buffalo Springfield broke up. And this is, it's him announcing, in a way, this is what I'm going to do. Because this is nothing like, in my opinion, Buffalo Springfield. It's him showcasing his own personality. He's not just riding the coattails and, he's his own person. But this did not really reveal just exactly what was going to come. And this is a fine, wonderful debut. But man, everything that came out since then is just built upon the foundation that this laid. And it's really incredible. So after that album, he brought in some band members who were performing under a different name. Was it the Rockets or something? I'm not sure. And that was Danny Whitten on guitar, Billy Talbot on bass, and Ralph Molina on drums. and he named them Crazy Horse, so he would perform as Neil Young and Crazy Horse. And this was just a true rock and roll band. And their first recordings, I believe, are featured here. These are studio recordings, and it's them going through a batch of songs, some of which came out later, re-recorded. I think Cinnamon Girl might be the one that actually came out. And then there's a song called Wondering that he didn't record or actually officially release until the Everybody's Rockin' album with the Shocking Pinks. And that was more of a, in a rockabilly style. But there's a great version on this. Out of the versions I've heard, it's my favorite. So this is Neil Young and Crazy Horse. It's early days, and that was 1969. But the first actual Neil Young and Crazy Horse album was Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, and this is classic. This really, boom, this is who we are, and this is who we're going to be, and this is what we want to do. And that's really what this album is. So many great songs to love on here, but still, I think the best was coming. 1970, out comes a solo album. I think he had some of the members from Crazy Horse on his solo albums as well, but they just weren't straightforward Crazy Horse. He'd have like the Stray Gators, and he'd have these other people. He'd have David Briggs producing, and Ben Keith. He had a lot of great friends to help him out. After the Gold Rush, it's just an incredible album from 1970. This is the album with Southern Man and, of course, the title track. So that was an absolutely wonderful album. And then before I get to Harvest, by the way, I wanted to just let you know that Crazy Horse also recorded on their own. And there's a significant reason why I'm bringing this up. Now, the first Crazy Horse album is included on this, and so is their second. I think it's called Loose, and there's bonus tracks as well. This is, I think, 71 and 72 or something. But Danny Whitten, the guitar player, he wrote the song I Don't Want to Talk About It, which became a hit when other people recorded it decades later, such as Everything But the Girl, Rod Stewart. A lot of people recorded that song. It was actually written by Danny Whitten and first recorded by Crazy Horse. And so you can get this. I'm not going to focus on the group itself, but Wounded Bird, I think this might have come out on like Rhino Handmade originally, but Wounded Bird re-released it. And I thought that I should just mention that before I get on to the next album, which is the big one. It is Harvest. Really wonderful album. This is the album with Heart of Gold, Old Man, Needle in the Damage Done. This was probably his most successful album, and this was huge. I saw it in every record store. It was just incredibly popular. And of course, Heart of Gold was a big single. This was 1972. Because of this popularity, he decided to sort of go off and maybe react a little bit differently. Instead of embracing the fame, it became very overwhelming. So what he did is he went and he recorded albums that they now call the Ditch Trilogy, because he was talking about, Heart of Gold and Harvest, put him on this path, this certain journey down this road, but he was more attracted to the ditch, and he found people and places more interesting in the ditch. So that's why they call this the Ditch Trilogy. Now, to follow up that album, he put out Time Fades Away, which was one of his live albums that features songs that he has not previously released. It's all new material, and it's got some fantastic songs on it. So there was some crazy stuff happening to Neil around this time as well. Danny Whitten, the guy from Crazy Horse who wrote I Don't Want to Talk About It, he died of a drug overdose, as did Bruce Berry, who was Neil Young's friend and roadie. And it was very overwhelming. Obviously, stuff like that's really going to have a profound effect on somebody with a heart. And I've always felt Neil Young had a heart. But, he went in and he recorded an album called Tonight's the Night, which is filled with sorrow. It is it is an emotionally devastating album. But they decided not to release that at that exact time. And then they went ahead and they released On the Beach, which is still part of the Ditch Trilogy. It's not a return to form, for, Harvest and stuff like that. But Neil Young was always writing great material. And then, I'm probably getting my timing off on this, but then he went and he recorded a new album and he was planning to release it, and it's called Homegrown. and this is another archive release. This wasn't released. What they did is they went ahead and they released Tonight's the Night. That album that I said was dark and painful. I mean, you could hear the pain and the anguish in his songwriting, in his playing, in his voice. This album, Homegrown, is closer to the classic Neil Young sound that you were hearing on Harvest and before. But like I said, it never got released. But a lot of the songs did end up making other releases, either in this version or in different versions. And as I said, Tonight's the Night, painful, hard to handle, and but it has turned into a lot of people's favorite Neil Young album, specifically because of that. Then out comes the album Zuma, and this is kind of, well, this is with Crazy Horse, but it's kind of him getting back on the horse, back. He's certainly not going to embrace the fame of Heart of Gold. He's basically had the fortitude to say, I'm going to do it my way. And Neil Young did it his way. Zuma, another great album, and that came out in 1975. Then he went in and he recorded the album Hitchhiker in 1976, and this is a chiefly acoustic album. Basically, he was prepared to release it as is. I believe the label kind of talked him out of it. Hey, look, we need to work on this a little bit, because it was very intimate. It wasn't heartbreaking and stuff like Tonight's the Night, but it was a very intimate and a very honest album. And you know how record labels don't want honesty. So they postponed that. A lot of the songs from this album actually ended up elsewhere. He'd either re-record them or a couple different mixes, that kind of thing. So this is a great collection. You're probably going to be familiar with most of the songs, but they're going to be in different form. This is the original form, his original intention. But then he got together with his old buddy Stephen Stills. Like I said, I'm not talking about Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, but I will mention Stills Young. And this was, half Stephen Stills songs and half Neil Young songs. And the best song, or one of my favorite Neil Young songs, is Long May You Run, which was the title track to that. And that came out in 1976. Then he went back and he was going to release in 1977 a collection of songs that he'd been recording over the last couple of years that may not have been for a particular album or may have been left over. He was going to throw them all together, and it was going to be called Chrome Dreams. And this is an album, again, that was not released, and it was heavily bootlegged back in the day. But Chrome Dreams is another wonderful collection of songs. This was kind of almost replaced by another kind of collection of odds and ends that they turned into an album called American Stars and Bars. This is the album, by the way. Both of these albums actually feature Like a Hurricane. And I think some people might forget that. What a great friggin' song that is. I mean, hello, it knocks you flat in the face and you're on your back and you're enjoying every moment of it. But again, both Chrome Dreams and American Stars and Bars, this was officially released. This was supposed to be released, but they both have great songs, absolutely great songs. Now, in I think 1977, he released the album Decade. This was a triple album, and this was like a double thick jewel case, but now they whittled it down to a double in sort of this gatefold sleeve thing. And it's a great collection. It does cover from Buffalo Springfield up to this point. There are some rarities on this. Probably some of that stuff has been released, if not all of it, on some of the other things I've been telling you about now, on collections and the archive box sets and stuff. But still, it's I'd say one of the most popular classic rock compilations out there, because everybody that I knew seemed to have Decade. So then he decides, I'm going to go and I'm going to make an album that's going to be my typical sound on one side and a country sound on the other. And that's what he did. He went to the studio and he recorded Oceanside, Countryside. And it wasn't released. Again, like Homegrown, like Hitchhiker, this was an album that they just kind of thought, well, you know what? Maybe it doesn't have the right feel. Maybe the label didn't like it. Maybe he didn't like it. But he went back, and most everything here has been released elsewhere on other albums. As I said, re-recordings or remixes or whatever. But that same concept, that same sort of, the second side being more country, they approached that with his next official album, which is my favorite Neil Young album, and that's called Comes a Time. So this was the original concept and idea, and this is what actually came out, and it's got some of my favorite songs by Neil Young ever. It is my absolute favorite. I remember my brother playing stuff off of this, and I'm going, oh my God, oh, that song's great. Oh, that song's great. Incredible, absolutely incredible. And we've only got one more album to talk about, and this is probably an album that introduced a lot of the new wave kids to Neil Young, and that is Rust Never Sleeps. This is an album that is mostly live, if not all live, and then they went in and they did overdubs to create, a bigger sound. So it has the spark and the energy of live, but it also has that great layered sound that you can only get when you add overdubs and things. This, of course, has My, Hey, Hey, or Hey, Hey, My, depending on which version you prefer. It's got Powderfinger, one of the absolute best Neil Young songs ever. Oh, my God. What an incredible artist. And this is a journey. Neil had to go through a lot of shit to give us this kind of music, and it has been incredible for us. I feel bad that Neil has had to go through the strife and the pain in his life, but I'm so grateful that he let us know about it, and we got to experience it along the way. So anyway, here is a medley that I put together. Sit back, relax, enjoy this, and I will see you on the other side.
Step aside, open wide. It's the loner. I wanna live with a cinnamon girl. I can be happy the rest of my life with a cinnamon girl. Southern man, better keep your head. Don't forget there was a band playing in my head, and I felt like getting high. Keep me searching for a heart of gold, and I'm getting old. Oh man, take a look at my life, I'm a lot like you. Ooh, babe, the bridge was falling. The bridge was walk on, walk on, walk on, walk on. Open up the tired eyes. Don't cry, no tears around me. Long may you run, long may you run. You are like a hurricane, there's calm in your eyes. Comes a time when you're drifting, comes a time when you settle down. It's gonna take a lot of love to change the way things are. The king is gone, but he's not forgotten. This is the story of the Johnny Robin. It's less than a mile away. I hope they didn't come to stay. It's got numbers on the side and a gun, and it's making me
Well, that's it. I hope this inspires you to check out the music of Neil Young, or to revisit your Neil Young section in your own CD or vinyl collection. I really appreciate you taking the time. Remember to watch out for the next episode, and that's going to cover the years 1980 to 1989. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I really appreciate it. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that bell for future notifications. And until the next time, remember me. I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.